The film begins with a sick girl whose body is burning with fever, and then her mother takes her to the bathroom bathtub so that her body cools down a little. There is also a man named Seth, who is not a human, but an angel. Seth is actually an angel who comes to man when he is about to die in a short time, so that after his death his soul can be taken to the afterlife. And there are thousands of angels like Seth in different parts of the world who take their souls with them after the death of humans, but no one can see them. Now that the girl is not getting any better, her mother immediately brings her to the hospital where the doctors start her treatment. But still, the girl breaks her own heart, and as soon as she dies, her soul comes closer to Seth. Why is her mother completely broken when she sees her daughter die? On which the girl tells Seth, "My mother is crying a lot, can she go with me?" To which Seth says, "Her time has not come yet. When her time comes, she will come to you." After which he takes the girl's soul with him in the afterlife. You might meet your friend Kessel, where he says that today he sent a girl's soul into the afterlife, but he also tells him that he also sent a man's soul into the afterlife. After which, he starts roaming around the city so that he can take the soul into the afterlife. And along with him, there are some other angels. Now we see Maggie's doctor, who comes from the cycle to the hospital. After which, she starts the operation of a patient named Tom with the other doctors, where she is doing the operation while listening to music. There is also Health, which was waiting for Tom's time to be over. And then Maggie gets a call from someone. That's why she goes to pick up the phone. And by then, the other doctors are doing the operation of Tom. But now her condition is getting worse, so Maggie calls him and comes to him and tries to give him CPR. But other doctors say that it will be of no use. Then Seth also goes to him to take Tom's soul. But then Maggie looks at Seth with her eyes, and what she sees is totally unexpected. After which, Tom breaks his breath, and his soul comes to Seth. Now Maggie comes to Tom's family and gives them the sad news that Tom is no more. When they hear this, they all break down. And when they see him crying, she also starts crying alone, and she thinks that she is responsible for everything. That she shouldn't have gone to pick up the phone, while Seth also comes to her to console her. And then again she feels that Maggie saw him, so he immediately comes to Castle and tells him everything. On which Castle says that it is impossible because anyone can see you only until you want them to see you. But still, Seth does not understand how Maggie can see him. On the other hand, Maggie is still troubled by Tom's death, so Dr. Jordan gives her a heart attack. Both of them like each other, but Seth doesn't like it. Assume he likes Maggie. Now wherever Maggie goes to the hospital, Seth also goes after her. Where Maggie comes to see a child who was thrown on the roadside, and after knowing his condition, as she goes home in the evening, she sees Seth, who asks her if she has come to see anyone. On which he says, "I have come here to see you because you look worried." On which Maggie says, "I am worried because I could not save a patient." On which he replies, "You tried your best, but you can't change what is written in fate." On which Maggie thanks him and leaves. Now she comes home, and she is thinking about Seth all the time, which he is also listening to invisibly. Then the next day, when she opens her eyes, she finds a book on the table that Seth had kept there. And she starts reading that book too, which makes her feel very good. After which, she comes to Jordan and thanks him by giving the book, saying, "You gave me such a good book." But he says, "I have not given you any book," which is a little surprising to hear. That who kept the book there? So she comes to the library where she meets Seth. So Maggie asks her, "Why did you come to the library?" On which she says, "I live here because I am the messenger of God." But she thinks that she is joking and blinds her. Now Maggie brings Seth to the hospital lab and shows her DNA cells and tells her that if she dies, even a human won't be alive, which is a shock to hear. Maggie asks her if she can check her DNA, but Seth clearly refuses and asks her about her feelings. Like, how does Hosnia feel when she cries? And she tells him about all kinds of feelings, but it seems that she also wants to feel everything like humans. Then Maggie's alarm starts ringing, so she asks Seth to stay there and leaves. But Seth comes to a room of a patient named Nathan who looks at Seth and says, "I know you are here." Hearing this, he gets even more surprised. When Maggie comes back to the lab, Seth is not there, so she goes home where Jordan came, who is packing Maggie's stuff. On which he asks her, "Why are you packing these things?" He says, "We are going hiking for a few days." But Maggie says, "Can't we go after a few days?" On which he agrees, and then they both start having fun. When Seth sees him there, he gets angry. Now he comes to meet Nathan, who says, "My number has not come yet. I am absolutely fine, and I am going to get discharged today." But then Seth asks, "How can you see me?" On which he gives him a shocking information that, "I used to be an angel before, but I completely changed myself into a human, and now my family is also here." Which surprises Seth, and he takes him to meet the other angels, where he hears the sound of the sun. But that voice doesn't make him sound like Nathan. You meet up with Sir Castle and tell him about your feelings and say that, "I have started to like this world. The people here have started to like me. I have started to feel their feelings too. That's why now I want to be a human too." He gets surprised to hear that. After which Seth meets Maggie, where he tells her, "You are still wearing the same clothes. Do you have any clothes or house?" But he says, "I don't need anything. I just like to meet you." On which she is also a little happy, and from there both come to Nathan's house, because after being discharged from the hospital, she has a party today. And Nathan's daughter starts playing with Seth in that party. On which Nathan's wife takes a photo of him. And after Seth goes away, when Maggie sees that photo, Seth's photo doesn't show up at all. She gets scared after seeing that and tells Seth to bring her home and cut the vegetables, but Seth didn't know how to cut the vegetables, which cuts his thumb, but he doesn't get hurt. But this Maggie sees and cuts her hand with a knife. But she immediately hides her hand from the cloth and asks, "Why did you do that?" But she removes the cloth where there is no wound. What she sees now is even more scary. Seth tries to explain to her, but in a hurry, Maggie slaps him a few times and drives him away from home. After which, Seth is very sad and spends some time with Casil and Nathan. Here, Maggie was also feeling bad that she shouldn't have done this to Seth. There, Seth is also invisible and watching her. Now, in the next scene, Maggie comes to Jordan and proposes marriage in front of him. But Maggie asks him for some time to answer, on which he agrees. Now Maggie comes to Nathan and asks him everything about Seth. On which he says, "Seth likes you, and he is not a human but an angel who can sacrifice all his powers for you." When he hears this, he gets very surprised and goes to the library to meet Seth, where Seth is happy to see him. But Maggie tells him, "I have just come to say goodbye to you so that you forget me. Because I want a person in my life who can feel me, who can feel everything, not someone who doesn't feel anything and leaves after saying so much." But for the first time, Seth feels heartbreak and he comes to the terrace of a building, thinking of suicide. And while remembering Maggie, he jumps down from there. But some floors are saved by bumping into each other, where blood starts flowing from his hands and he gets happy, thinking that means he has lost all his powers and become a human. There are some walkers who ask, "Can you see me?" On which they all answer yes. They hear Seth singing and dancing and come to the hospital to meet Maggie. But from there, he knows that she has been to Lake Tahoe for a few days in her uncle's cabin, on which he immediately goes for it. Now, to get there, he needed a ride, but he didn't have money to give the ride, so he is begging people on the side of the road in the rain for a lift, on which a truck driver is kind to him, so he makes him sit in his truck, after which he leaves the truck. He first asks Maggie if she has married Jordan, to which she says that she has refused him because she likes him. After hearing this, he gets happy, and both become intimate. Now, the next day, Maggie goes to get some food from the city for Seth. Seth has never come to his house for the first time in his life, which makes him feel very good. When Maggie returns from her cycle, a truck comes in front of her with wooden logs. Maggie is hit by the truck, and the burning candle in the cabin suddenly goes out. Seth gets a sense of something wrong, and he immediately goes to Maggie. Now Seth runs to Maggie, where she is lying on the road in a wounded condition. Seth tells her that he will get help immediately, but she says that the driver has run away, so don't leave me. I am very scared, on which he stops with her. Maggie now tells her that everything is over. "I thought I would take you around the world, I would teach you everything. but because of me, your sacrifice is also over." To which Seth says that nothing like this happened. "You have put human feelings inside me. I thank you for everything." And hearing this line, Maggie breaks her own leg there. To which Seth hugs her and starts crying in the middle of the road. After which he makes Maggie's funeral. And the sad song playing in the background makes this song very emotional. Now Seth spends many days in sadness, and one day, Cassie comes to him. Seth shouts at him and says that you took Maggie to the afterlife. On which he says that he was not there. Cassie explains to him that, "Look at yourself, you have turned Core into a human. And one day, you too will die, and then I will take you to the afterlife. But answer me one question. If you had known that all of this would happen to Maggie, would you still have sacrificed your powers to become human?" To which Seth replies, "Maggie not only taught me the feelings of being human, but also the meaning of love. I would sacrifice everything just to catch a glimpse of her." In the next scene, Seth comes to the same beach where he hears the sound of the sun rising. There are many other angels with Castle. The life that Seth gained because of Maggie, he decides to spend it happily. He goes into the sea and starts playing in the waves. When Castle sees him happy, he also feels joy. And with this mix of emotions, the movie ends.